Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Westworld Episode 6, McNultys on Movies.
Welcome.
Yes. So, there's a lot that happened this episode, a lot of stuff to go through. We're going to try to stick to the two primary storylines, and then we'll do some quick hits on the little side stuff.
Sounds good.
So, we had Elsie and Bernard. Her name is Elsie, apparently, and not Nancy.
Elsie.
But, so them trying to figuring out who's transmitting information to the old hosts.
So the episode 5, they pulled that transmitter out of the host, the woodcutter's arm, and so looking at that more, and Elsie doing things I don't understand. I don't know, just technical talk, and figuring out that, at the end of the episode, that there's all of the hosts that are kind of having problems have been messed with by somebody. Well, I think not just the woodcutter.
The first thing we kind of got introduced to, that we kind of had hints of before this, but really talked about, is the old system, quote unquote. The idea that there is this abandoned basement area full of whatever they used to do to control the hosts.
We've had the man in black talk about the machinery inside and all the little parts. We've talked about, Ford's hinted at old host a little bit.
Yeah, the Dolores is the first one. That's sort of thing.
And then we saw the unregistered hosts, which is Ford's family, or robots that are Ford's family.
Yeah.
And then we see little Ford and his machinery, his inner workings.
Right. So we just have this idea that there's maybe a new system that feels like it's Ford's, and this old system that feels like it's Arnold's.
Yes.
That that's where Ford's, we kind of get these contrasts between where Ford has a lot of power and then these things that kind of break down where he isn't, and it seems like we're introduced to this idea that it's whatever was old, he has some loss of control over. But, so we had, at the end we kind of found out that there were it seemed to me like there were two different players using the same uplink kind of system. We have Teresa, who's doing maybe some kind of espionage.
Maybe taking information. Elsie says that it was her that had logged in that sector, in that house she was in, which was super creepy.
Yes, that place was super
There's
creepy.
clones and stuff. So,
storage closet.
Yeah, Teresa, I guess, is part of this corporate espionage and stealing something.
But it seemed to be totally separate from, Arnold's, whatever Arnold's grand plan is.
They don't seem related.
They just happen to both be using the old system to get their information transmitted.
And we see the fact that we'll talk about this more, but as Maeve is there and talking to the two guys that are working with her, and she tries to kind of change her characteristics, at the end, they realize that somebody has been offline changing her makeup prior, which fits with either Arnold's or Teresa's, or both, changing hosts and kind of repurposing them.
I feel like Teresa is unlikely to be involved in Maeve because it doesn't fit her motivations.
I don't even know if it's Teresa that's stealing information.
Okay,
I know they just said it was, but I just feel like she's, I don't like her, but I feel like she's kind of clueless. I don't know. And with Ford, she seemed really caught off guard when he took her to that restaurant, I guess last episode or the episode prior, and she's really concerned about the expansion. She's concerned about what the board is going to think.
Well, I think the fact that Elsie thinks it's some outside group and that, corporate's going to reward me, I feel like it might be corporate doing it. I think
corporate is doing it.
They're fighting Ford.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that we don't remember his name. We're horrible with names. But the guy that was kind of in charge of head of narrative of making stories, in the first or second episode, he was talking to Teresa and said, something about something bigger is happening,
right? Yeah,
in the park, and she kind of made a comment
like yeah, you're smart enough to realize there's something happening, but not smart enough to know what it is.
Yeah. So I kind of think that Teresa is working with the board, and that Ford is on his way out, and I think Ford knows.
Yeah.
That they want him out, and he's planning this whole narrative, but now Arnold is getting in the way.
Well, I feel like Ford sees his primary enemy as Arnold.
If not before, definitely now.
And
after this episode.
And maybe he feels like the board might push him out, but he's views. I think the way that he had that conversation with Teresa at that restaurant, he's trying to show like the board is a distraction to me. You're playing this game against me, but I'm barely playing. I'm playing over here against Arnold in the maze.
So, what do you think about Arnold? Is Arnold alive somewhere in the park? Did Arnold code stuff to happen at a certain time in the future?
I think it's more likely that like he has whatever he did when he died, and the maze somehow metaphorically represents this, or is the symbol for it, has put in things like the violent delights trigger to I feel like that's what triggered Maeve's change. She got the violent delights trigger, and that changes her attributes to be more paranoid and to be more self-preservation-y.
So you think by those words, that's when her characteristics were shifted?
I think so. Yes.
So we see Teddy and the Man in Black talking about the maze.
They do talk briefly.
Teddy has this story about it.
Yeah, about the man dying.
Like a legend or folklore or whatever.
Which would kind of fit with Arnold.
Which would kind of fit with Arnold. Yeah. I kind of think that Arnold's alive.
He could be.
I don't know though.
But I feel like some of the themes of the show would fit well with the idea that Arnold is active even though he is not alive.
Yeah.
Like that he's just part of he's part of the park now. He has infused himself into it even though he is not literally alive. Anything else? Oh, Maeve actually gets to see that advertisement for Westworld.
The scene of her walking through upstairs was
really
just
well done.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we've watched it twice. I would love to watch it again. But really well done. And she sees the advertisement, and we realize now that she views, I guess, the time with her daughter as a dream, which I guess is what most hosts view their flashbacks as, is memories from a dream. Yeah. Well,
I noticed a few things on there, and I think part of the shooting. One, they shot the escalator, like looking down onto it, and so you could see it like circling up. I thought that was a really very intentional metaphor for the way that there's change in the park, but it also goes in cycles. They're like shooting. The park itself is constructed as a helix. I think that was a good visual metaphor.
That's beautiful.
And also the slogan is "Live without limits." But we're actually, when we see that, we're watching Maeve literally like discover how limited she is. Like she's finding out all these things about like you can't do this, you can't do that, and they're throwing out the "Live without limits."
Yeah.
Which I think the other thing with Maeve, in the bigger picture, is that until now she thought she was discovering something about the world, kind of like Lovecraftian, like Cthulhu, like the world is not really this, it is something darker, and there's other forces. But instead she's now realized that she's not human. She's not what she thought. Like the world is different, but also she's discovering that she's not. All the way up to her, like, literally failing to comprehend that she does not have free will and she is programmed.
Yeah. It was very interesting.
Yeah. So it was a good focused episode.
It was.
Do you want to do quick hits, or do you have any other big?
Yeah, let's do quick hits.
Ford is wearing the same clothes as his child version of himself.
The exact same.
The exact same.
Which
except for his little chain right here.
Notice the first time at all.
I didn't either.
But it's the exact.
Yeah.
It's like a mini me.
Mm-hmm. The Man in Black, you pointed out how surprised he is at Teddy on the Gatling gun. It's just a funny, so contrasting to his
so crazy. And Teddy's, had this flashback to, I guess, part of his backstory now, where it appeared that he was working with Wyatt and killing a lot of people, and he tells the Man in Black, like, you don't know me at all, but he's figuring out who he's supposed to be, and
contrast Teddy remembering his fake backstory with Maeve realizing that what she thought was her dream is in fact real.
Right.
And also,
and then Carlin pointed this out, and I'm not 100% sure, but in the last episode, Ford talks about his dog from when he was little, catching a rabbit, finally catching a rabbit, and then killing it, which is what happens to the host, the childhood Robert, who kills the dog because he hears Arnold's voice telling him, like, this dog's a killer, you need to put it out of its misery so it can't hurt anybody. And so, that made Colin wonder, and I agree. Is that what happened in real life? Did Ford really kill his own dog in real life after
it caught the rabbit?
After it caught the rabbit.
Because we talked about...
And Arnold knew that part of his story and is kind of sending Ford a message through this.
So I think Arnold's definitely sending Ford a message about the park. About, I'm killing the park.
So it can't hurt anybody.
But I think might also be a thing of, like, just like you killed your dog so that it couldn't hurt anybody. Like, using this real life story.
Something that was really important to him.
Yes, to make it emotionally resonant and make him understand. But we don't know, and we probably won't know, if Robert actually did kill his dog at the end of that story or not.
Probably.
He did not admit it to the...
But I think it's a good thought.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
I think that's and last one, this is just totally random. Wyatt, his character, this, like, terrible villain, is basically identical to the guests.
Yeah.
His behavior is indistinguishable from the guy who killed Maeve at the beginning of the episode, really.
Yeah.
Like, he's killing for no reason. He looks much like Logan, but it's just interesting that, like, he's making this grand villain basically in the image of the people who go to the park.
Yeah. So tonight's episode, we are interested to catch up with Kidnapped Elsie to see who kidnapped her, and Dolores.
And you can go back to Dolores and
see where she is. I hope so.
Yeah.
And interested to see Maeve with her new intellect.
That's true too.
And awareness heightened.
And if she keeps it.
And if she's able to keep it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another good thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Do you want to explain why you are concerned about her keeping it?
So, briefly, I noticed that in the last episode, when Elsie is trying to get a look at the woodcutter, she blackmails a guy down that's working on the host with a video of him having sex with a host, and says it's a common misconception that hosts don't log this when they're down here getting worked on, but they do. And then the guys working with Maeve, when they're changing her makeup, her characteristics, talk about how no one is going to know.
Yeah.
But I wonder
if they're actually right about that.
If they're actually right, if they'll know, if somebody we will notice, or if Maeve will even get to keep it if somebody else is also still using her for something and changing it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
This has been episode 6. We'll see you with number 7.
Bye.